Welcome again to our sixth episode of Kids Empowering Kids. We're so excited to be back. My co-host is with me again today, Ireland McNair, coming to us from Louisiana. Thank you so much, Ireland, for giving time out of your vacation to hop on the show with us. I really appreciate your dedication and willingness to do that. Thank you. And our guest today, Tony Fedde. Thank you. Tony, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself before we get started?
I am Tony, and I'm going into 8th grade. I took Shady Oak from 1st and through 5th, and I'm a graduate of that. And my hobbies include computer programming, karate, and swimming. I like swimming a lot, but I don't like competition, but I just swim. Yeah. And I have a brother who's just graduated Shady Oak and a sister who's going into 3rd grade. Our family's been supporting Shady Oak for quite some time now. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I'd like to share for now.
All right. Well, thank you. Ireland, do you have anything you want to update the audience on? Any new thoughts or ideas before we jump in?
No, not really.
All right. Awesome. Well, Tony is coming to us today wanting to talk about his experience with project-based learning. He also wants to talk about his experience at Shady Oak doing our Genius Afternoon and a specific system we use called the ticket system. So those are the 3 topics we'll be exploring today. So Tony, talk to the audience a little bit about what you understand project-based learning to be and why you enjoy it so much.
Project-based learning is a system that Shady Oak uses, and it's basically how it works is that everything is revolved around one huge project that has some sort of like artsy craftsy thing involved. Like for instance, like draw your own Greek mythology monster and make up like a story for it, or like other stuff. That I think that was my favorite. That's why I brought it up. Anyway, so project-based learning, it really lets kids like take control of what they're doing and like give them like independence in like how they're gonna do stuff, and it gives them like experience, and it kind of prepares them for the real world, because it's not like everything isn't going to be handed to you on a silver platter once you become an adult. And it gives them one step closer to adulthood and like getting a job and stuff. That's why I really like project-based learning, because not only is it like really, really fun, but it actually teaches kids about, independence and stuff.
So Tony, one of the things when I talk to other educators about project-based learning, they say things to me like, oh, I don't know about that. It seems like the kids just run amok and it's just chaotic. And what do you think about that comment? How would you respond to someone who says that?
Well, I would honestly think they're in some ways they're not wrong, because kids can kind of get out of control at sometimes, but kids gotta like practice this type of independent stuff and get used to it, so that they can learn to work and not make it go chaotic and all that kind of stuff, because it's not, you don't just start in again like perfect at everything. You got to like have some practice at everything in order to be good.
So Ireland, would you agree with the statement that elementary school is a safe place to practice these things? In other words, it's not like you're out in the real world and if you mess up on your project and you don't get paid, you can't feed your family. What do you think about being able to learn this skill and be able, like for me, what's important is allowing students to make decisions, to have failures that don't have any cost, exposed to them, or that things go wrong, but they can fix it. It's not the end of the world. So I know I've also been exposed to project-based learning. What do you think some of the benefits are from doing that type of learning?
I think that the kids get to use their creativity to pull out into something that they really like and do a project and learn how to do it, because if they mess up, they can fix it where in the real world they might have a problem with that, And so if you practice, like Tony said, you won't really make that mistake in the future. If you make that mistake now instead of making it in the future, you might have to you would avoid some asteroids if you're going through. You would avoid some problems.
I really believe, and you guys, excuse me, have heard me say this before, that there's life lessons, right? And the younger we learn them, the less they cost, right? There's less sort of expenditures involved. So Tony, what can you describe maybe in a little more detail your favorite project that you worked on and sort of what your role was in it? And did you do it by yourself or was it in a group? How did that all come together?
So in social studies one year, we were studying Greek mythology. And there's one time we were they announced that we're gonna make our own Greek monster that we would make like a story about and like how it was created, its weakness, and a bunch of other types of stuff. And so basically what we did was first you'd start with like a picture and an idea of what your Greek monster was like. Then you'd like give it a name, and then you'd write its origin. And then it would just work itself out and like start, and it would go and it would do it. It's what it write itself. At least that's what happened for me. It was a lot of fun, and it was independent. You did it by yourself. So you could relate your creatures to other people's creatures if you wanted to, but like it was one person has one monster and so on.
Got it.
Yeah.
What about you, Arlen? What's been your favorite project to work on?
There were so many. I just think that every project I did had a fun side and maybe a downside. It was hard at some times, but then at the end, it was always really fun.
Do you want to share with the audience the constitutional game board project that you guys did this winter?
Yes. We learned about the Constitution, and we did a game on like you would have to answer questions, or like we were allowed to be in groups, and we could make a game, and then like at the end everyone would go around playing games, and you would get to see everyone's game and how they made it and answer questions about it. One of my favorite things that I remember was we got to pick a country and we got to learn all about it and do books and basically do a cool like open thing about it. I forget what those are called. But
Trifold?
Yes, those where you could put it there and it had stuff inside. And I picked Ireland, which is my name, and that's a country. So I had a lot of fun on that, and I still have that, and I love that. I put a lot of hard work into it, but since it was independent, I got to work on it by myself to where I already knew a bunch about Ireland. I got to put up pictures because a little bit of my dad's side is Irish, and I'm kind of Irish, but so I got to. They had been to Ireland, and so I got to ask them a bunch of questions, and I've actually Irish stuff in my room. But enough about me. Let's hear what Tony has to say.
Well, I think when we were talking about the Constitution, what happened is it's such a big, boring subject, right? And so we were trying to come up with a way to make it a lot more fun. And I think when the students were preparing the questions, guess what, Tony? They were learning the Constitution. And yet when we walked into the classroom, now if you were not comfortable with this sort of chaoticness, right? When you walked into the classroom, you saw pockets of children laughing and giggling and talking, and in some cases arguing about the right answer. But it was all about the Constitution. If you listened carefully, there was some really in-depth conversations going on. And then the creativity that we saw and the beautiful artistry that we witnessed when they made their board games, it was really, I don't know, I thought it was really exciting. They did such an awesome job. So are we good with project-based learners? Oh, I know you had one more question, Ireland, you wanted to ask Tony about other students. Yeah.
If there's other children who don't go to Shady Oak and they want to learn about project-based learning, what could they learn if they don't come here? And I know there's tons of students that can't do this, but how would they learn more about project-based learning?
They would what I would do personally is I would try and encourage the teachers at the actual school that I go to, and I would encourage them to try project-based learning, and hopefully it would go well. And you could hopefully encourage project-based learning at the school for like better like independence and stuff.
And there's
That's
a
what
lot
I-
of resources that are available to teachers who are willing to take this on. So,
Mhm.
all right, well, let's leave project-based learning and move into our Genius Afternoons. Tony, I'll let you introduce that to our audience, and Ireland, feel free to jump in if you have anything you want to add or any questions for Tony.
Genius Hour or Genius Afternoon is a system that Shady Oak uses. It's kind of like you get to freely pick something that you want to do. Like, for instance, last time when Joe was here, I think at least, he talked about the magic show. That was a Genius Hour project. And that it all started whenever I was handed a magic book. But anyway, Genius Hour, it lets kids freely pick what they want to learn about and make a project off of it. Like, for instance, one year I did computer programming, and another year I did like something else. I forgot. But Genius Hour is like a way to let kids pick what they want to learn instead of giving them something, handing them something to do. And it's a lot of fun. It's a lot better than than you'd think. It's very nice.
So what's the value for you when you get to choose something and dive deep into something that is of importance to you or that you want to learn more about? How is that valuable? How would you convince a teacher who's like, I don't have time to incorporate Genius Hour into our schedule? What would you tell them are the benefits of doing something as a student from your perspective?
Because everybody has like different thoughts about everything. I'm sure the teacher might have some sort of disagreements, but it lets the students get to like pick what they want to learn. Like let's say, for instance, you're interested in the ocean and ocean life, and you could go and research. You could go pick the ocean life as a subject and like research stuff and like make some sort of like cool like diorama or something about the underwater and ocean life. Like, I'm already thinking as I say this, and I just thought of this, I already think of ideas like springing through my head. It gives students opportunity again to work independently and learn stuff that you wouldn't normally learn at normal schools.
Yes, and
So do you feel, oh, go ahead, Ireland, I'm sorry.
I think that it gives children a time to pull out creativity, but also you have to research and show pictures and like answer questions about it, but it's not like you're just going crazy. You're still learning things and being able to put time and detail into it. You have to make like a tracking system. So we do it on Fridays. And so every Friday after all of our work is complete, if it's not, you won't work on Genius Hour. You'll just do your work until you're finished. But once, if you're done, you get to go and you have a time thing that you take to, let's say this week, I think I'm going to do this. And next week, I'll see if I finish with this. And if I'm not, then I'm just going to go on and I'm going to keep going. But if I am, I'm going to do this instead and just keep progressing.
So you have to lay out your project like a timeline, right? And manage that project line. And have either of you managed, I know when I sort of do a project, sometimes I'm way off on my calculations, right? Sometimes I think a certain step of the project is going to take only a very short period of time, and it turns out to take so much longer. And then other times it's much shorter than I had anticipated. And I think for me anyways, as an educator, that's really important that you guys get to experience that, so that when you look, the more you do these, you're going to look at a project and you go, oh, I know how long this is going to take because I've been and done this before, right? So the content that you're learning is important, but the process is super important to me. So I'm glad you guys like it, because I think it's a really good way to learn. do either of you want to talk about the Shark Tank experience? What does that look like?
Pardon?
Shark Tank, when we do Shark Tank, maybe Ireland, might not have done that when you were there, Tony, but we've incorporated.
I don't remember.
Okay, Ireland, can you tell the audience about what we do with our Shark Tank area?
The Shark Tank, you would take the first Friday when you first start, you would think of ideas to do, and then probably the next Friday or the Friday after that, you would go up and like everyone would sit down and you would and you would sit in front and you would show them your idea and what you would do, and they would give you feedback on what they think. Could you do this, or is this gonna happen, or so if like when with Tony and Joe, the magic show, they had to come up with a bunch of things like that what they're gonna be, what if you want to pay for it to get in, how much it would cost, if there's gonna be snacks, like you would have to go through a bunch, but Shark Tank would be able to give all the students, give you feedback on your idea, and you could improve it or say, I think I like it just the way it is. And so Shark Tank was very fun, be able to talk back and forth about what you think and hear what they think.
It's a way of getting market research done. And it's also a really good way to make sure you're clear on what your process is, right? Sometimes sometimes it's clear in your head, or you think it is, until you try to tell somebody else, and then you realize, oh, I'm not as clear as I thought I was. So awesome. So Tony, the last thing you wanted to discuss and share on the show was the ticketing system. Maybe you can sort of tell our audience a little bit about that and how that played into our Genius Afternoons.
Mm-hmm. So the ticket system was a thing that people used where everybody had like tickets, and tickets we used kind of as a currency. And if you're good, you'd get tickets. Like for instance, if you come in before, if you don't come in late, then you get a ticket. And you save up your tickets. And at the end, towards the end of the year, we did this big bazaar thing where you would use the tickets as a currency and buy homemade items by other students, made by other students, and they would charge a certain price, and you would get the stuff. And so basically, towards the end of the year, you would use your Genius Hour time to work on your stuff for the bazaar. And like you could work as a group or you could work solo. And usually if you're a group, you would try and meet after school and then work on it at home as well. Because sometimes since you're doing a group, it might take a little more time for stuff. And you also had to like pay rent for the desks that you would use. And it teaches students about like the marketing system and how it works. And another thing that I really like about the ticketing system is that sometimes if you don't do that good of a job, then not as much people will buy your stuff as if they would from a person that put like 10 hours of effort per day. Now, I might be a little over exaggerating, but if they put like a ton of effort into it and it's really, really good, then a lot more people will buy more of it. And if it's not as good, then people will buy less. But that's kind of, it's not about what you think, it's about what the other people think, what your product is. So I think it really teaches people about the marketing system and being like making stuff and selling it and seeing what other people think.
Thank you. And then we kind of graduated that system, didn't we, Ireland? Can you tell the audience about how we took it to the next level?
So I heard.
Sorry, Tony, you graduated too early.
Yeah.
I remember I did the ticket system in 3rd grade, but then in 4th grade, on the same day that we were gonna do it, Blockhouse, right down the street, they were doing, they're like 5-year or 10-year anniversary, and we were invited, and we were able to create stuff and sell it for real money at the place and at Blockhouse, and it was amazing. I remember I was paired up with one of my friends, Madeline, and we made crystals and jewelry, and we had a blast. We couldn't use any of the material at school. We had to buy it ourselves, and we got loans from our parents or from friends. And then we did this May 5th. No, I think May 5th, and we would sell stuff to people, other schoolmates or strangers that we didn't know, and we would sell them to it, and we would give them bags and do that, and we sold most of it. And I remember each of us got like $99. We got a lot of money, and we split it, but then we still had to pay our loans to the other people who gave us money to pay for our stuff. And so we were able to have that experience, getting money and still having fun, instead of doing the tickets and still getting things, but this time we were paying money to other classmates, or they were paying money to us. And I love
Right. And we also, so we worked on angel investment letters that we wrote to get those investors to give you money for your supplies. And then at the end, you provided us with a profit and loss and a balance sheet so we could see, because I remember being at one of the events, because we've done a couple now, where it looked like one particular group was making a whole lot of money, only to find out that their costs were much higher. So the group that actually looked like they were making the second amount of money actually made the most profit. So it was a great way to learn about profit and how that all works in the market system. So this has been an awesome, awesome show. Tony, thank you so much for being here and joining us. Ireland, as always, for your insights. Tony, I'm going to give you a chance to say anything you'd like to say to our audience about empowering other children, or any sort of words of wisdom you'd like to pass on. You're a very wise young man at such a young age. So what are either things that you've learned that have really helped you to be successful that you would like to impart to others, or just anything you feel is worthwhile to share at this point?
The thing that I would say the most for advice is never be afraid to ask questions. There's always somebody that knows better than you, and it's usually the people that care for you. You should never be embarrassed or anything to ask, and you'll hopefully get your answer. Or if you don't, then keep searching, try and find it somewhere, because you will find the answer that you're searching for, as long as it's not something like, "Ooh, what's the meaning of life?" or something like that. As long as it's not stupid that nobody's never found.
That's really, really sound advice, because I think a lot of students think if they ask questions, then it sort of makes them vulnerable. People think they're stupid or they don't know the answers. When in fact, I know for me, I do a lot of training of adults, and the first slide I put up says, "Ask me questions that tells me you're engaged and you want to learn." Ireland, any parting words for our audience this week?
If you cannot get a hold of project-based learning at your school, or if you can't get there, I would say try, and if you have like free time, get off the TV or the video games and try to make something, and use your creativity in your mind and try to make something that you think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. You guys are so smart. Thank you so much for being on the show. This has been another great episode, and we'll see you next week.